Hi everyone and welcome. You are back for AARP as our cooking series. Who's AARP? We are the largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we are absolutely dedicated to empowering people to choose the best life that they can. In Illinois, we have about 1.7 million members, and my name is Lori Hendren. I work for AARP Illinois, and I am fortunate to come here with our September, our September cooking series. Time's flying. One of the things we do is we strengthen communities, and we definitely advocate for what's the most important to families with a focus on health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. And one of the things that's really neat we're doing today is a cooking series. So I know there's so much going on. We typically do this in person, but we are now doing this in the comfort of your home. You're in my backyard. If you've been with us a lot, you've seen it. So I just thank you for coming and joining us. And before I get too far, if you're passionate about AARP, if you're passionate about making a difference on issues, AARP is supportive of the various things, I want you to look at this right here. This is Ellen Acevedo's, her contact information, and reach out to her anytime. I'll also pop this up at the end, and reach out to her, myself, even on the feed to join us. And also, if you're joining us right now, I thank you, and in a couple of minutes you're going to see a link. The link is right there, and that's where you can get the recipes. So today we're doing the summer Sammies, and we just thank you. We believe this is a great opportunity to all of us to come together and learn such a popular series. So thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Chef Amanda, and I'm going to welcome her. Hi, Chef. How are you?
I'm good, Lori. Thank you so much.
All right, Chef, it's all yours.
Okay, welcome everybody to another session of AARP cooking virtual demos. It is September, but it is not quite fall yet, so we thought we would use this week as an opportunity to close out summer before we get into those super heavy bread, dessert, and kind of holiday type recipes that we're moving towards for October, November, and December. We love doing sandwiches here. So we thought this is a great week to showcase some really fun sandwiches that we can do in-house quickly, and also that are easy to do at home. So today we're going to be making a Candied Bacon BLT. I always tease that once you make a Candied Bacon BLT, you might never go back to a regular BLT, so just be warned about that. The candied bacon can be used in so many applications besides just a BLT sandwich. Obviously, you can just eat it by itself, eat it for breakfast, eat it as a garnish on something. It's highly addictive. I will warn you about that. So we're going to be showing how to candy our bacon and make that effectively today. Then we're going to put it on a sandwich. We're going to make a special aioli for that as well, which is just a fancy way of saying mayonnaise. And we're going to flavor that up with a little bit of chipotle spice so it has a kick. And then I'll also give you, it's not in your recipe, but I'll also give you an idea for a different aioli mayo that works really nice with this sandwich that doesn't have any spice or kick to it. I just really love the way that the sweet plays along with the spicy. So we get candied bacon, we're going to have it kind of sweet. We need something to balance and counteract with that. So we're going to go with a little bit of a spicy mayo dressing. And then, of course, regular toppings like tomatoes and iceberg lettuce. And we're going to use a multi-seed bread for that. To go along with our candied bacon BLT today, we're going to make a microwave sweet potato chip. And then we're also going to have something that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We're going to have a watergate salad. So that is a salad that's straight out of the 70s. That's a mix of pistachio pudding, marshmallows, crushed pineapple, pecans. But over my years, I've put many other things in there as well. So those are the three recipes today. If you pre-registered for your virtual video, then you've probably already gotten your recipes. I did make just a couple edits, so I want to point those out before we get started. I know originally in the Candied Bacon BLT recipe, I forgot to tell you what to preheat your oven to. And this is because it kind of varies. At home, I preheat my oven to 375 because I know it bakes super hot. It is a high-tech oven. It is newer. It's baking way faster and way hotter than the ovens I have here in my shop, which are over 14 years old. So here I would preheat my oven to 400, at home 375. But you need to be somewhere around that for your bacon. And we're going to get our bacon going first because it can take anywhere from 30 minutes or longer to cook your bacon. And again, this is a variable recipe. It's going to vary depending on how thick your bacon is. Also, what's the fat to meat ratio on your bacon? Obviously, bacon's a very fatty product in itself, but buying bacon from the butcher is going to be a little bit different than buying just your regular generic bacon from the Kroger store, which is going to have a higher fat content, which means it's going to bake a little bit differently. So with the candied bacon, I'm going to give you the general breakdown and principles of how to make it, but it's going to take a little bit of tweaking on your end, and tweaking and peaking, I like to call it, because it really does depend on how thick is your bacon and what kind of bacon did you buy. So the first thing we're going to need to accomplish that is going to be a sheet pan. I like to line the sheet pan with foil, and I like to put a baker's rack on top. The baker's rack is important for the bacon because we want all of the grease from the bacon to drip down to the baker's rack, and then you're not going to want to scrub that sheet pan with bacon grease and caramelized brown sugar, so you're going to want to have that barrier there for easy cleanup later. Pan spray is essential here. We're going to make sure we give it a very good healthy spray. Now I have baked the bacon right on the pan and on the foil before, but then it literally just takes forever because it's like drowning in its own grease. So this is a way to make me feel better about it. It also gets crispier. It gets air flowing from both sides. I love these baker's rack, and you'll notice in our videos, we probably use them almost every time for something. So you can grab one at the dollar store. They're very easy to find these days. I'm going to just start lining my bacon on here. And you don't have to use gloves. I'm doing it so I don't have to wash hands over and over each time. And I'm going to lay my bacon out flat. And this is just an applewood smoked bacon, hickory smoked bacon, whatever is going to work here. And I am going to get them quite close together, as you can see. Because the bacon is going to shrink once you start cooking it. And I think our recipe calls for 12 slices. It really depends. This isn't a thin bacon and it's not a thick. I intentionally got a medium thickness bacon. That way I was kind of right in the middle if some of you got a thick and some of you got a thin. But obviously thinner bacon is going to cook way faster than thicker bacon. And you could do 12 slices, but you can also do as much as you want. I recommend making the whole pound, because you're going to eat a piece to just test it and see how it is, which is going to probably lead into you eating several more pieces. And the next thing you know, you're out of bacon for your sandwich. Maybe that's just my house. Joe's been in my bacon all morning, y'all. Joe's behind the camera making this all happen for us as well. So shout out to Joe. He's going to be doing your demos on Wednesday, which is going to be the heirloom tomato basil soup and the grown-up grilled cheese, which also has bacon.
It's going to be the best day, folks.
Oh, you think so, Joe?
Well, I mean, we are making candied bacon right now, so it's kind of a hard argument to make.
Yep. And then tomorrow we're going to have myself and Sophie on the video tomorrow. We'll take turns for some delicious sweet tea and a fried green tomato sandwich, which I'm excited for that too. All right, we got the bacon all laid out. This is going to be plenty. So I'm going to throw my leftover bacon behind here. And that was just from Kroger. Nothing special. You know, it's bacon, so I'm not looking for something super lean. But I know somebody might want to ask, you know, well, can we use turkey bacon? Sure. Sure, you can use that. I try to find the nitrate-free bacon, you know, and get something like that that doesn't have as many chemicals in it. But bacon's fatty, and that's pretty much the end of it. So I'm not looking for something super lean. This bacon seems to work great. I love the Aldi's bacon. That works great. I really don't love the super thin bacon for this. Doesn't cook up as nice. It's going to shrink considerably, so you want it to be about medium thickness is my favorite. But use what you got by all means. Anything's going to work. Turkey bacon works too. You're kind of defeating the purpose there, though, because you are adding brown sugar to your bacon, so I don't know. But maybe you just like turkey bacon, and that would be fine. All right, So that was like a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, just kind of scattered. And you can see I really focused on trying to get it on the bacon and try to get, evenly kind of spread across. And that looks pretty good. All right, now for the peppers. I really liked the cracked black pepper on this. And I go pretty heavy on it because I'm looking for, again, a nice balance between the sweetness and the saltiness. And I need the pepper. You can also shortcut this step right here by buying a black pepper bacon. And then all you have to do is add brown sugar. If you want to kick it up with a little more pepper, you can, but then you got that pepper around the edges of the bacon. I'm not sure if they have that at Kroger's, but at Aldi you can get 1.5 pounds of the black pepper bacon there, and I often use that for this recipe. We're right at the end of tomato season right now. I know I'm still getting tomatoes on my plants, especially the itty bitty ones. Most of my big ones have been in for a while. All right, so a heavy portion of cracked black pepper, and then I'm going to hand this off to Joe. He's going to put it in the oven. Again, ours run a little bit under here, so we're going to put it in at 400, and we are going to start with 20 minutes. And then we're going to check it after 20 minutes. If it still looks, flaccid and not really set up yet, we're going to keep setting it for 5 more minutes until we know that it's where we want. So I'm going to hand that off to Joe. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
And then this is our end result. Crispy, nice, set up bacon like it would look if you fried it in a pan. But as you can see, it has that shiny, caramely, delicious brown sugar that has settled on the top of that. So I'll give you a few tips just while we get our bacon going. You want to make sure that you've got a piece of parchment already lined up and ready at your station, because the bacon will come out of the oven. It's going to be sizzling like crazy, and you're going to want to let it rest. And I usually let it rest for about 4 minutes, 5 minutes, so that the candy can kind of set up on top, the brown sugar. Then I have a piece of parchment paper waiting, and I don't want to let it harden on my baking sheet tray on the grated baking rack, because it will stick to there and it'll be very hard to get off, and it'll make cleaning very hard as well. So you want to give it 5 minutes to rest so the candy sets up, then have your parchment paper ready so that you can remove the bacon to the parchment paper. You want to show them what we have here, Joe? So I've already done a first round. As you can see, this piece got a little bit crispy, but that's okay. I actually like it that way. But I've removed it to here so that it can harden. On your tray, it won't really get to this point. It needs to cool down to get to that point. At this point now, it's ready for dipping in chocolate. I've seen people glaze these with chocolate, butterscotch, and add more candied non-perils and things to the top of it for holidays. At the Taste of Peoria, I had some candied bacon that was just, you just walk around with sticks of bacon dipped in chocolate. And they were absolutely delicious. And this is the starting process of that. If you want it spicy, you could have added chipotle into your brown sugar mix and kind of went that route. But we're going to do that as a flavor component inside of our mayonnaise. So for now, keeping it simple, this bacon on a BLT is outstanding. On a burger, can't be beat either. All right, so moving on. We'll let our bacon go, and we're going to talk a little bit now about sweet potatoes. So these sweet potato chips are obviously very healthy. Sweet potatoes are a superfood, so we want to try to integrate them as much as we can. I absolutely love sweet potato chips, but I was thinking, is there a way to have sweet potato chips without frying them? Because when you fry something, obviously at high temperatures like that, we're going to take away a lot of the nutritional components that we love sweet potatoes for. So I actually learned this trick originally from one of the chefs at ICC to do them in the microwave on parchment paper. And he does it in his modern cuisine class. So we're first going to start with a potato. I do really pay attention to the shape of the potato when I buy it from the store. I'm looking at the shape of the potato, and I'm trying to find one that isn't like, crazy weird shape, because it's going to be hard to peel, and it's going to be hard to get chips that are all the same size. So that's something to think about when you're buying your potatoes, and not to get them too big either. We did several trial runs of the chip before today. And again, this is going to be another one of those recipes that it's going to depend on your microwave. Some microwaves just cook quite intensely, as you know, and then your smaller microwaves, not so much. So we're going to work with that. And that's why in the recipe, I did put, you know, just keep cooking them at 30-second intervals until they're done. Yes, you can do them in the oven. I did try that this morning. I did it on the baker's rack, just like I did the bacon, actually. And they took about 20 minutes, but it's not as good of a chip as it is on the microwave on the parchment paper. I also didn't like the way that it kind of gave it kind of a darker, non-appealing color. And I'll show you what all of those different ones look like in a second. So we're peeling the potato first, taking off the skin. Pretty good there. And I'm going down to the bright orange. And that looks pretty good. So there's a couple different ways that you could slice your potato. I didn't know what kind of appliances or what kind of utensils, I guess, you would have at home. So in the recipe, I'd put, you know, use a very sharp knife. And you can cut your sweet potatoes very thin. And I said about 1/8 of an inch. And you can go that thick. I guess what you want to be mindful of is that all of your potatoes have the same width. That way, when you're cooking them, they cook evenly at the same time with the same amount of doneness. So that's one way to do it. And I would say it's more like 1/16 of an inch that I'm going for here. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Seems pretty time consuming. Another way that I tried earlier was just to use the peeler and to get really long strips. Well, that works great, but you end up, I mean, these potatoes are going to shrink a lot in the microwave. So you end up with something that looks about like this. And while they were really, really delicious, and they got super crispy and yummy, it's just not much, you know, you started with so much larger. It feels almost like you didn't accomplish anything at all. These chips are chips that were done in the microwave on their parchment paper with constant flipping. So you can see that they did achieve the color that we were looking for. These are chips that were done in the microwave, and they're very nice and crispy. And they have a little bit of blackness to them. This is what I'm calling my lazy chip. So this chip here was the chip that I didn't turn. I barely checked. I literally set it and forget it in the microwave and walked away. They're very tasty. I wouldn't say that you taste the overdoneness on the chip, but as you can see, they're not as pretty to look at as something like this, which is really what we're going for. And these chips are a little bit tedious, but here's what I like about them. They're going to be preservative free. They're going to be really fresh. They're going to be pretty darn healthy. And all they needed was a little bit of sea salt or kosher salt and olive oil, and they were simply delicious. It's not something that you can like make and let them sit though, because they kind of lose their crispiness. So we could go with the knife technique. We could go with the peeler technique if you want like a long skinny chip. But I still think the best technique is going to be your mandolin if you have one. Okay, and I buy this mandolin at Walmart, and I absolutely love it. I think it's $12 to $15, something like that. And it's got little settings on it, and I like it because it doesn't have any pieces to it that are floating around in my drawer, and I don't know what they do. Okay, so that part is quite nice. It's got just 3 settings, 1, 2, or 3, you know, so that you can achieve the perfect chip and width every single time. So I'm going to go with this. And if you have a knife, you use that at home, whatever you want to do. I just didn't know if anybody had a mandolin, and I didn't want to build it into the recipe just in case. We want to give you some options. But as you can see, I'm already almost through my sweet potato by using this wonderful gadget, I guess we could call it. And yes, they are dangerous. Just keep your hand out of the blade, though, and you'll be okay. Funny, right? Just take it slow. There's no reason to go fast. And when I get down to the edge, I just don't worry about it. I get rid of it. Compost it. for another day. It's not worth a cut on the mandolin. All right, so I have some beautiful chips here. They're probably about a 1/16 of an inch thick. They are not paper thin because they're going to shrink up considerably in the microwave. All right, next step with these is we're going to put them into our olive oil bowl. This has gotten a lot of use today. I've done about 15 batches of chips just to find out the best way, which was the original way that was on the recipe anyway. But I wanted to see, you know, is there a faster way around this? Is there somewhere where we can accomplish this goal faster? And like I said, you can do them in the oven. I did them on a baker's rack like the bacon. And it was like 1 minute in between where they were bright orange and beautiful and where they started to go dark. So you just got to be ready to pull them out right at that perfect moment. And again, that's going to depend on how thick your chip is. But I use the same temperature as I did for my bacon. So here we have it at 400. So I just added about a tablespoon of olive oil to my chips. Then I added some kosher salt. You could add any seasonings you want here. You could add a Mediterranean seasoning on here, and that would be amazing. And then I have my microwave plate in the oven, and I've cut several pieces of cardboard because you're going to have to do these, or parchment paper rather, because you're going to have to do these in batches. And then you're just going to lay them out, single layer. And this parchment paper is really what keeps them from discoloring. And you might be thinking, oh man, that's a lot of chips. I'm not going to be able to eat all those, but just wait till you see how much they shrink up.
And also how good they taste, because you will be
I've
able
been
to
eating
eat
them all
these.
morning. I was happily sampling the different methods that we use today. You can make beet chips like this, taro root chips, parsnip chips. I buy those taro chips at the store all the time. It's like a mixed variety pack of Mediterranean chips, and they're just delicious. And they're a great alternative to a potato chip because you're going to get a lot more health benefits out of your chip when you're using vegetables that are superfoods. Like, I don't love beets, but I love beet chips. Is that weird?
Better than eating the whole beet.
Those taro chips are amazing. They're just really good. So I have a microwave safe plate in my microwave already. So I'm not going to cook on another plate. I'm just going to put my parchment directly on there. And I'm going to set my first round of chips for 1.5 minutes at half power, medium power, 50%. If you don't know what that is, it's usually on your microwave. It's the same as defrost. All right. Those look great. I'm not going to salt them anymore. They're perfect just the way they are. I'm going to just take this whole thing over. Maybe. There we go. Put that in there. And then I'm going half power. And then what I'm going to do is cook those for 1.5 minutes, and then I'm going to flip them. And then I'm going to cook them for another 1.5 minutes at the half power. And then we'll just kind of go back to that. So again, let's have a look at the chips over here. Again, these gave me the crispiest chip, which was the chip that I just didn't mess with. These are crispy as well, and these are crispy as well. And so are these, but again, just not as pretty to look at. Really, these came out the brightest, the original strips that we did. And the strips were the very first one I did. And I probably spent the most time on these. But this is the ideal color that you're looking for, the ideal texture that you're looking for, because they're nice and bright and they just look prettier. These are the ones I flipped and then flipped again. And it is kind of a time consuming process, but I think it's worth it. They're absolutely delicious and they're bright, they're beautiful, and they're going to be a lot healthier than your alternative potato chip. All right, so let's try to back and forth this process. We're going to keep checking our chips and then coming back to our recipes as well. So today I'm going to be using some multi-seed bread for our BLT. This has a mix of poppy seeds, sesame seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds inside of the bread. And any way I can in my family, I try to sneak this into their diet because obviously it's a better type of fiber than white bread has to offer. So we're going to do our BLT on that. If ever there's a time where you should sneak those things into your bread, it's the time where you're going to fill it with bacon and mayonnaise, right? So over here, we got our chips. Probably pull them out so you can see what's going on. Nice and bright. They are still not crunchy, so we're going to give them a little flip. So we recently found a recipe that we started using and then we kind of amended to make our own, but it actually uses sweet potatoes as noodles. And it is like one of my favorite things that we're doing here. They go into an Asian dish and they get like a gingered pork meatball that goes with it. And if you're gluten-free and you can't have noodles, it's a really awesome alternative. Or even if not, I just love the dish in general. Oops. So again, half power for another minute and a half. And then after that, I'm just going to keep adding 30 seconds. So I'm not going to go too far. But yeah, with the sweet potato noodles, they're actually super simple. I try to look for really long, skinny sweet potatoes when I'm doing those. I peel them just like I did in the video today. And then I use the peeler from one end to the other to get these really long strands of noodles. And then they just simply get sauteed in a pan with some really hot oil. And then all of the other Asian ingredients get added in. I'm not kidding you. It's one of my new favorite dishes. And then, you know, just without the pasta, which really doesn't offer any nutritional benefits whatsoever. So if you're going to eat a noodle, you may as well eat a sweet potato noodle, which are great in this season right now that we're going into. And then you can have a little bit more health benefits from the superfood that we're eating. I did do the sweet potatoes on a rack like this in the oven, and I tossed them. I did the same process, laid them out, and I think we started at 400 degrees, and we went for 15 minutes, and then we needed to go another 3 minutes, and then we got some that were a little bit crispy brown, but it did work, and you could do a lot more like that. I did use the baker's rack. I was thinking next time I tried those, I might use the parchment paper method. All right, here we go. Take a look at these. We can tell that they're really starting to cook now, okay? You can turn them again if you want. They're starting to firm up, I can tell, and get a little bit crispy. And that mandolin really made for a nice chip. They're all very uniform, which is good. So now I think they need another minute, so I'm going to go for another minute. At half power. And then I think we can go back and probably get to our mayonnaise in that amount of time. Okay. And then I'll have Joe sneak off and toast my bread. So in your recipe, I gave 2 different ways to toast the bread today. You can brush them with olive oil and then you can put them underneath the broiler. Your broiler really will decide how long you need to toast your bread for, but typically anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes is probably going to be right on. Or you can just do it in a regular old toaster. Then you can avoid the fat altogether and save a few calories that way. So we'll do that in just a moment. And here I have my mayonnaise from the recipe. And then I have just a little bit of smoky paprika here. And if you've been with us in the past, you know that I like to use that in a lot of my recipes because it is delicious. And then the red sauce that you see here is the adobo sauce. This isn't something that you buy all by itself. It's something that comes in the cans of chipotles. And the chipotles are the peppers. And then they're in the adobo sauce, the sauce that's made from that. So the sauce is very smooth, but also very smoky and spicy. So you don't need too much of it here. We're just going to really flavor it just slightly. If you don't like a lot of spice at home, another alternative, if you want to write this down if you have a pen, would be to use the same amount of mayonnaise in the recipe. I think it was three-quarters of a cup of mayo. And then add 1 tablespoon of honey and 1 tablespoon of honey and 2 teaspoons of stone ground Dijon. And stir all of that up, and then you have a honey Dijon mayo, which goes equally well on this sandwich if you're not looking to get a spice component. And I love mustard and mayo mixed together. We use that here all the time on our sandwiches. All right, let's check our chips here. Ooh, we're definitely getting there. You can see that they're really starting to shrink up quite a bit. And now I'm to the point where I probably won't flip them every time, because we're getting pretty close. You can see that the color is darkening and changing slightly. And then keep in mind too, that they will not probably be crispy right out of the microwave. You're going to let them cool down, and then they'll achieve that crispiness that you're looking for. So don't think you have to cook them in there until they're perfectly crispy. That actually won't happen. Put it back in. And this microwave here is like 15 years old. So it's going to take a bit longer. Is there any questions so far?
Right now, we don't have any classes or any questions. I'm sorry.
Is anybody cooking live with us? I always like to know that.
Right now, Chef, I don't believe so. I think everyone is taking notes along with your recipes.
Cool.
And if you're joining us, you can, if you missed the beginning, I know one of you mentioned in the comments you missed the beginning, we will have this to re-air right after the show's over.
Awesome. All right, so that looks pretty good. I like to give it a little taste and see if it needs anything. No, it's just perfect. You know, if anything, I would add a touch of salt, but I already know that my bacon is going to be really salty. So I'm going to just resist the urge and temptation to do this. I'm going to pass my bread off to Joe and have Joe toast my bread off. And then we'll go ahead and check our bacon as well and just peek at it and make sure it's doing okay. Like I said, the difference between these 2 pieces of bacon can literally happen in like a minute or 2. So you want to be really, really careful to not overdo it. But a lot of people, when they make this, I noticed in our classes, will pull their bacon too soon. So I want to make sure that you guys know what it's supposed to look like before you pull it out. And then just like your sweet potatoes, it's going to harden once it sets and gets cooled down a little bit. Yep, those look pretty good. We're going to go another minute and we're done. So we'll go 1 more minute on our sweet potatoes, and then hopefully we'll allow those to rest. And then, how's our bacon looking, Joe?
Pretty good.
Joe's going to pull our bacon out so we can kind of see where it's at. Cool. So as you can see, it still has that translucent look to it, to where, you know, it would be safe to eat, but it's not going to set up and get crispy at this point. So if you like a chewier bacon, I would still go probably a couple more minutes, but we're not quite there. We can still see the light pink shade of the bacon. But it's going to be done within the next 5 minutes, I would say.
And that's what's on our timer too, just 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I would say that sometimes you need to pull those outside pieces off because they might bake just a little bit faster than the pieces in the middle. So don't hesitate to look at it and say, and that's exactly what happened with these. These were on the edge. This one isn't too bad, mainly just this one. But these were on the outside of our pan baking, and the outside of your pan always bakes faster and hotter than the middle. So they got a little bit overdone, and I should have just pulled them off. So don't, you know, hesitate to do that too. All right, this bacon, go ahead and pull it out. And then we have our parchment paper ready, which is essential for you guys too. You want to have that piece of parchment, or if you don't have parchment at home, you can use wax paper to put your candied bacon on. Oh my gosh, I just want to like eat this and put it in my mouth.
I'm pretty close to just stealing that plate and running home,
Don't
guys.
you
Just
dare. This is going to be my dinner tonight. Just a plate of bacon.
nothing wrong with
We're
that.
definitely having BLT. All right, let's see how our chips are faring. All right, so this looks pretty good to me. As you can see, they have shrunk up quite a lot. Some are even starting to curl. They're getting a little bit of color here. And they're not crispy yet, but that's because they haven't cooled down. So we're going to pull our sheet here, allow those to cool at room temp. And then I'm going to put in my second sheet and I'm going to get them going. We're going to pay less attention to them. All right. So chips are done, mayonnaise is done, bread is toasted, bacon is on the way. Let's talk tomatoes and lettuce. So typically I never promote iceberg lettuce. It's actually my least favorite lettuce, mainly because it's composed of all water and it doesn't have a lot of nutritional benefits. But there's just some times where that's the right lettuce, and this is one of those times. I love iceberg lettuce on my BLT. And this is my favorite meal to cook for my grandpa. And he's just a very simple man. He doesn't really want to get into all of the different greens that are out there. And he certainly isn't going to eat kale. So I like making it with just a standard iceberg lettuce. If you're not going to eat your whole head of lettuce, which typically you don't in one serving, try to leave the like root intact, the kind of stem part that keeps it all together where it's cut from the plant. Try to leave that in the whole half that you're going to eat, just slice off part, and then wrap it in a wet paper towel and store it inside of the Ziploc bag, and it'll keep without having the edges brown. We did that with this lettuce, and it's been in there for a couple days, and it's just perfect and nice and crispy still. Then I'm just going to use a regular old Roma tomato, get some pretty good slices going on there. Any tomatoes you have are going to work great for our BLT. We're just making 2 big sandwiches, so that's probably going to be enough. If you have avocado at home, that'd go great on here. If you want to make it more of a club style sandwich, add ham, turkey, or a combination of the 2, and then you've got yourself a mean monster sandwich there. Okay, so there's our other sweet potato chips. They're looking pretty good. I'm just going to give them a flip. Now these I did a little bit different. I did them on full power for 1 minute. Flip, and we'll see what happens. These are the ones earlier that when I did them, they got just a tad bit brown. I think because I didn't pay as much attention. But they still taste pretty darn good. So we'll go another minute, full speed power. These are still cooling down. But that one was beautiful and crispy. So they're cooling down and then they're gonna get nice and crispy for you. And that is definitely happening here. I think in total, we were at 6 minutes on our chips in 1.5 minute intervals. Here comes our toast. Now we're gonna make this simple salad that I'm sure most of you have made over the years. This is a watergate salad. So it's going to be composed of our mini marshmallows. So many different flavors of marshmallows out there right now. So any of them would work here, but we're just using plain Jane. Then we have some Dole crushed pineapple, which you're not going to want to strain the juice from. So do not strain the juice from your Dole pineapple. And then 1 box of pistachio jello. I've never actually used this for anything but this particular recipe. And then a 1/2 cup of pecans. These are whole, so I'm going to give them just a slight little rough chop on my board. And you could use a food processor for that, but I'm just going to use my knife. I'm going to go ahead and pop the can on my crushed pineapple. You cannot use regular fresh pineapple in this recipe, or in any recipe with Jell-O for that matter, because your Jell-O is not going to set up because it has bromine in the pineapple naturally, which is an enzyme that causes Jell-O not to set. But when you use a canned pineapple, that's actually cooked off in the canning process because it heats up enough, and that's what deactivates that enzyme, basically. So we've got our pineapple dumped into there, and then we've got our Jell-O, and we're actually not going to mix it with anything. We're going to pour it right into the bowl, just like that. We're going to give a rough chop to our pecans, or you can buy already chopped pecans if you want. I usually just buy them whole because then I can use them for whatever I want. Tomorrow's our biggest day. We're making several things, including the peach tea, the fried green tomato sandwich, and a little melon salad. I'm excited about that.
You guys can always combine the days when you're making these and put the fried green tomatoes on your candied bacon BLT.
Oh, man.
Not healthy at all, but
Delicious.
good sandwich.
Why not? All right, pecans are going into the mix. Some other things that I think would go really well here are like maraschino cherries. I've seen those put in here, or coconut, or macadamia nuts, because this has a very like Hawaiian feel to it anyway. And then I also have my 1.5 cups of whipped cream. So I'm just going to give this a little stir first. I remember the first time I made this, I was like, there's no way that could be good. And then I ate it and I loved it.
When you hear all the ingredients and you think
weird.
about them together, you're like, that's not going to be as good as it is.
Yeah, it's really delicious and slightly addictive. Okay, so now I've got the pineapple plus the juices mixed with the box of pudding mix, which I think it's easier to do those two together before you add everything else. And the nuts. Give it a good mix around. Then we're going to fold in our whipped topping. This is just a frozen whipped topping. Cool Whip, specifically.
Good old American Cool Whip.
And when we mean to say fold, it just means we're not like stirring it vigorously. We're just slightly folding to keep it kind of airy and light and fluffy. And then don't forget the marshmallows. I had to run away. I don't know where it went. And we're going to stir this in. And I find myself adding the cherries a lot just because it's kind of lacking in color. And then I usually let this set up for about an hour before we eat it. And what happens is the marshmallows swell and they kind of take up some of the liquidness in the recipe. They drink up the pineapple juice, I guess you would say. And it makes it super fluffy dessert. But I like it because excuse me. I like it because you can make it in about 5 minutes. All right, let that rest. I'm going to wash my eye out.
Our bacon's
Pardon me,
getting close.
I got a little bit of that in my eye. Pardon me.
I'm
Ooh,
taking
yes,
off
perfect.
our edge pieces of bacon here.
All right, cool. So we'll show you that here in a second. There you go. Scoot it on there, Joe, and then we can get some camera action going there.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much perfect.
And there's our timer going off right now.
Yep. It could probably go another minute or two if you wanted it to, but this is good too. I like mine a little extra crispy. So this probably went 2 minutes longer than what this did. But like I said, you want to be mindful of leave it on here, allow it to rest for a couple minutes, because if you were to pick it up now and move it, you're going to lose all your candied yummy pepper and all of that. But this is ideally what I'm usually shooting for. As you can see, it shrunk up considerably. It looks much darker. Okay, and I just would transfer it over here, let it cool. These pieces, like Joe said, he was going to pull these off early, and I think that's a great idea too. And then I would probably throw this pan back in, give it 2 to 3 more minutes, and then they're all going to look like that. So let's go ahead and do that, because we want some nice crispy bacon that stands up on its own like so. So we'll give our bacon 3 more minutes, and then we'll get everything assembled. Our watergate salad is looking pretty good. Like I said, this will thicken if you allow it to sit for a little bit. And then we'll go over here and check our round of sweet potatoes. So these are sweet potatoes that, as you can see, I haven't really messed with. I did just flip them one time. I've also been cooking them at 1 minute full power intervals. And you might say, oh, well, those look exactly the same as the others, you know, and that seems way easier. And it is. Here's the catch. The reason I didn't put it in the recipe like that is now it needs to go in 30-minute intervals at half power, because it's going to be so sensitive as to burning them that you wouldn't want to go like full on like that the whole time. And I thought that made the recipe a little bit confusing. So I did it more like this is how we're going to do it the whole time. But this here went 2 rounds, 1 minute and 1 minute, both at full power with a flip. Okay, now they're going to go at half power, and I'm going to do another 1 minute long cook. Then they should be about ready. So there is a little bit faster of a way, but just a little bit more to it. Okay. All right, do we have some toast, Joe?
We sure do.
Oh, beautiful. All right, so Joe did the olive oil toast, so brushed it with olive oil and then went underneath the broiler. And we had some pretty nice toasted bread. The great part about that is that you even get a little bit of flavor from the olive oil or whatever kind of oil that you want to serve there. So now we're going to go with our BLT. We're going to spread a little bit of sauce on each half. A hole in the bread right there. And this was enough mayonnaise to make 4 sandwiches. But it's just Joe and I today, so we're going to have to.
I said we should each have 2 BLTs, but I was outvoted there.
Yeah, you'd have to roll me out of here. Yeah. And I do like to go pretty heavy on the mayo. There's a lot of other dry things going on here, so I like to really sauce it up good. You could use an avocado mayo. You could use an olive oil mayo. You could use a heavy duty mayo, a light mayo, whatever mayo you want to use. Works great. I usually go, this is the glue of the sandwich, right? So I usually go mayo on each one. And then I'm going to put my crispy lettuce on next. And I'm sure you've all made tons of BLTs in your time. And then I'm going to go tomatoes next to the lettuce. And then I'm going to go about 3 pieces of bacon. That could turn into 4 right here.
It's your guys' bacon. You can do whatever you want with it.
I'm going 4. Joe is a big feller.
Yep.
And he deserves 4 pieces of bacon.
We have a weight loss competition going on right now, folks. So that's where that 4th piece of bacon is going.
I already ate 3 pieces of bacon today. So, okay, and then we're going to put our lids on. We're going to slice our BLT. And then I like to stack it one on top of the other. Put a nice little steak through it. Put our sandwich down like this. That looks good. Add a little bit of our Watergate salad here. which, as I said, is going to set up a little bit more for you. Usually we let that set about an hour before we serve it. All right, and then some of our crispy chips. Yum, yum, yum. And then we will still check on our other chips and see how they're doing in there. But what a pretty plate, right?
What a meal.
Perfect. These. Yep, and so I think these are going to work out just fine. Again, they just need to sit for a little bit and kind of come up to room temp. And they ended up being about 6 minutes as well. So 6 minutes either way. These might need one more round, probably at a minute. And I did the last 2 rounds at half hour. So a little bit of work on those of back and forth and kind of keeping an eye on them, but it's going to be a much healthier alternative to your potato chip. And then we'll go one more BLT for me. All right, and that is the end of it. Here's Joe's plate right here, guys.
She's joking, but I'll eat all of it.
A BLT with bacon. All right, and then here is our meal for the day. So we have our Chipotle BLT. Like I said, if you don't like the spicy mayo, our alternative mayo, which was not in your recipe, but if you want to write it down, is 3/4 of a cup of heavy-duty mayo plus 1 tablespoon of honey, any kind of honey that you want, plus 2 heaping teaspoons of Dijon mustard. We like the stone brown, so it has the little mustard seeds kind of in it that like to pop. Mix all of that, and you can kind of use that in the place of the Chipotle. And then your sweet potato chips and our delicious pistachio salad. This is a great looking, nice, bright, and colorful summer plate to celebrate the end of summer. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow afternoon, same time, same place, with Sophie helping me out tomorrow, and we'll be making our peach sweet tea, our fried green tomato salad, and our cantaloupe melon and mint salad, and I think that gets a little bit of goat cheese on that. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you there.
Thank you, Chef Amanda, and thank you for everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know there's some concerns about recipes, so I'm going to repost them again on our Facebook and YouTube channel. And so the recipes that you're going to get there when you download it is going to include for each day, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So on behalf of AARP, I want to thank you for joining us. And also, if you like what we're doing, if you want to join what we're doing, we have a team that makes everything possible. Ellen Acevedo is with us, and she will onboard you and get you information, connect you with a staffer like myself about virtual ideas, or if you're really into policy work, we'd love to have you. And also for more upcoming virtual events, you can always join us here and you can see what's going on. So on behalf of AARP, thank you. We will see you tomorrow, same time, 12:30. Please share. It is endless how many people can come. Thank you again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.